The Constituent Assembly debates revealed that the absence of the words socialist and secular in the objectives resolution was not an inadvertent omission, but a deliberate, conscious decision. The amendment to change the expression social order with socialist order was defeated in the Assembly by majority vote. All the rights associated with religious freedom are subject to law, and that Constitution is supreme and not the religious texts or tenets, however sacred one may believe them to be.
Namaskar dosto. In the last video we saw how Constituent Assembly deliberately excluded the words secular and socialist from the preamble of our Constitution, and how this exclusion was guided by the reason and purpose, and yet how in 1976 the words secular and socialist were added in the preamble through 42nd Constitution Amendment. So why was it done? How do we know? Well, every Constitution Amendment proposal or bill is preceded by what is called a statement of object and reason, which discloses the necessity and purpose of the amendment. The statement of object and reason of 42nd Amendment contains just one sentence justifying amendment. It says, the amendment is proposed to spell out expressly the high ideals of socialism and secularism. That is to mean, the provisions regarding freedom of religion contained in Article 25 to 28 and the ideas inspired by socialism included in the directives principles are represented by these two words. But socialism and secularism means different things for different people, particularly since the word secularism is not defined in our Constitution. We know how this word is interpreted or misinterpreted to suit political narrative. Not just in India, the word secular is differently interpreted in different countries. Let us take an example of UK and US. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, before he became Prime Minister, had said that UK is a secular state because everybody is free to practice his or her religion, and that people celebrate Christmas irrespective of their religious affiliation. He further said that UK is more secular than US because religion pervades political life of United States. Now we know that Christianity is the official religion of UK, and that First Amendment of United States Constitution expressly prohibits establishment of religion. That is, US Congress cannot make a law to establish state religion, which is a defining aspect of US being a secular state, and yet another state having official religion is deemed to be more secular. Well, that is how subjective is the meaning of the word secular, which has been added in the preamble of our Constitution without defining. Now let us talk about the expression socialist republic. To pursue the ideals of democratic socialism or include these ideas in the directives principle is not the same thing as declaring India a socialist republic, because Leninist definition of a socialist state also includes promoting socialist revolution worldwide. This concern was visible in Ambedkar's defense of the draft constitution in the Constituent Assembly. Dr. Ambedkar had said, communists and socialists have condemned this constitution not because it is a bad constitution, but because communists want a constitution based on the dictatorship of proletariat, and socialists want fundamental rights to be absolute, so that if their party fails to come to power, they should have freedom to overthrow the state. Talking about holding on to constitutional means to achieve social and economic objectives, Dr. Ambedkar further asserted that we should abandon these bloody methods of revolution, the methods which he called a grammar of anarchy. So that was the concern about socialist state. But then India is not only the multi-party democracy which has imported the word socialist in its constitution. there is Sri Lanka, Tanzania, Portugal, Bangladesh and few other countries, and the latest addition is Nepal. But it's interesting to see how these countries have adopted socialism in their constitution. For example, in the Bangladesh constitution, the preamble objective is to realize socialist society through democratic process. So it is about democratic socialism and not socialist state. Even Nepalese constitution does not call itself a socialist state. Rather, it declares itself a socialism-oriented federal democratic republic. So the options are to define, to explain, or remove the words from the preamble of the constitution. During Janata Party government in late 70s, an attempt was made to define the terms Socialist Republic and Secular Republic. A 45th Constitution Amendment Bill was in fact passed in the Lok Sabha. But since Janata Party did not have majority in the Rajya Sabha, the bill failed in the upper house. With regard to removal or replacement of the words in the preamble, well, in December 2021, a private member's bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha seeking to replace the word socialist with equitable. The bill was allowed to be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. However, there was huge uproar. The main argument against the bill was that it proposes to amend the preamble of the Constitution, and since preamble represents basic structure of the Constitution, it cannot be amended. Well, in the landmark Keshavananda Bharati judgment, Supreme Court had articulated Basic Structure Doctrine, which means our Constitution contains some certain basic features like the independence of judiciary, federal structure, supremacy of the Constitution, and so on, and that Parliament, in exercise of its constituent power to amend Constitution under Article 368, cannot amend Constitution if it leads to alteration of basic structure. So the argument is that the objectives of the preamble represent basic structure and therefore we cannot amend preamble. However, the proper interpretation would be that the Constitution adopted in the Constituent Assembly contained basic features, and we can infer from the Nehru statement that these basic features were not represented by the words contained in the preamble, but the content of the things included in the articles of the Constitution. In any case, if amendment to the preamble in 1976, adding certain words, if did not alter the basic structure, how could removal of these words today be called alteration of basic structure? Well, to conclude, whether to define the words, explain the words, or remove the words from the preamble, that is about the will of the people. And ultimately, the call is to be taken by the government and the Parliament. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, do share it, subscribe it, and give your feedback. Thank you. Jai Hind.